Ladies and gentlemen, the subject of cheating is plaguing the chess world at the moment, here in the middle of 2024. And yesterday, something insane happened. A very public profile of a grandmaster on chess.com was closed for cheating. This person played a nearly 100-game blitz match against none other than Grandmaster Daniel Naroditsky, fantastic commentator and content creator. And in those games, this Grandmaster sacrificed a piece on the second move of the game for 70 straight games and beat Daniel Naroditsky in a match. People thought, it's got to be Hikaru, it's got to be Magnus, it's got to be somebody on an alt account. But today that account was closed for cheating. And in this video, I'm going to take you through some of these absolutely insane games. And Naroditsky actually beat this person who was allegedly cheating several times. In fact, many times. Before I jump into these games, I'd like to thank the sponsor of today's video, Surfshark. Surfshark is a VPN, or a virtual private network, which allows you to encrypt your connection to the internet so you can browse it privately and anonymously. Wow, can I just say, my haircut looks really good. You know what else will look really good if you use Surfshark? Your streaming service catalog. For example, I recently watched The Gentleman on Netflix. Now, whether it's The Gentleman or literally anything else you may watch, sometimes your favorite show is no longer on your favorite streaming service. Well, if you connect using Surfshark to a different location, there's a good chance the movie or show you want to watch returns. And then you can watch The Gentleman, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, The Office, whatever it is you may like to watch. You know what else looks really good if you use Surfshark? Prices, particularly flights and hotels, but potentially other things as well. You see, when we book things like plane tickets, frequently cookies are used to geo-price. And if you use Surfshark to connect to a different location, there's a chance that you can save the next time you need to make a big purchase online. Folks, I've been talking about Surfshark for a while now, and you should know it's available on unlimited devices. All you gotta do to get started is click the link in the description. You'll get 83% off and 3 months for free. And the best part? They have a 30-day money-back guarantee. If for whatever reason, for the first month, you hate it, you can get a full refund, no questions asked. All right, let's get back to the video. Thank you, as always, to sponsored Gotham. My friends, this case calls for some sort of Sherlock Holmes. Basically, a couple of days ago, in the middle of the night, Daniel Naroditsky, beloved content creator and commentator, was playing some blitz chess against this account. This account that you now see there with the big fair play ban violation. And what's fascinating about this account is it's Brazilian. I think this is Portuguese. I saw somewhere written that this was some sort of, I don't know, reference to something. But if you click on this profile, these two accounts have apparently played something like 550 games against each other. Not the other night. And lifetime, this account has lost 400 games to Naroditsky while winning 155. Now, a lot of those games were 30-second chess games, which is less chess and more, mouse speed and craziness. But what made this match so ridiculous before knowing that this account was banned is that every single game, for 70 straight games, the person playing with the account with the Brazilian flag, which of course you can change, we have no idea if that's a Brazilian player or not, would play like this. The person playing on that account was voluntarily giving up its rook on the third move of the game, playing this idiotic opening, which sometimes we play as beginners and 3-year-olds play because they think you're supposed to bring the rooks out. And for 70 straight games, Daniel Naroditsky was being given a rook for a bishop to start the game. And losing. Now, originally, before I saw that this account was banned, I thought that this must have been some sort of top player. Like Magnus just got drunk and decided to play Naroditsky and lose his rook to him 70 times in a row. Now, what makes this really interesting is, if this really is a grandmaster logging in and ultimately getting banned, are they smurfing? Is the grandmaster cheating for the memes? Is the grandmaster's account compromised? Right? Like, is this a hacker? Like somebody just hacked this account, or maybe took their friend's phone and decided to cheat? I have so many questions. But some of these games were so absolutely ridiculous. And the thing is, we don't actually know. Like, I think it's Stockfish, but there is a, it could not be. So knight c3, b6, knight to f3, bishop to b7, And you basically give up the rook in the corner and you start consolidating. And you know that white is going to get the big center. You know that white is going to castle. And you'll actually notice that the players have not lost any time. That's because they pre-moved the entire opening. So both players knew exactly what was going to happen in the early stage of the game because they played this position so many times. Naroditsky would take his 2 pawns, take his 2 knights, and take space in the center of the board so that black can't really move any of the pieces. Black would then proceed to play a move like e6, right? And after e6, Naroditsky would take the center yet again. He would try to take space away from his opponent and try to play moves like pawn to d6, capturing, winning space, playing something like bishop to g5, knight e4, and knight into f6. Meanwhile, the grandmaster, or the cheater, we will never know what exactly happened there, would just try to develop their pieces. And as it so happens, the move d6 loses a bit of advantage for white. The better move for white is to play bishop to g5, take, and then wait. Leave these 2 pawns in the center. After d6, pawn takes, Naroditsky would play knight to b5, trying to get this and knight d6 on the board. Now, the other person is either a grandmaster or a cheater, and it seems as though they are a cheater, so they would allow in Naroditsky's pieces, and then they would start a counterattack. Now, notice Naroditsky has played 15 moves in 4 seconds. So he's barely thinking, right? And if he backs up in this position with a move like bishop to g3, black is going to play knight g6, and yes, white is up 2 points. I mean, white has been up 2 points for a very long time. White was up a rook for a bishop, you know, as early as literally the 3rd move, the 2nd move. So obviously there are possibilities there. He has to convert this advantage. How is he going to do that? Well, he's going to do that by sacrificing the bishop and creating a checkmating attack. And white is still doing well. White is only up 1 point now. And white's got queen h5 on the cards, queen d3 on the cards. I mean, that's just a fork. Queen d3 is a fork of this knight and checkmate. Rook e3, rook g3, rook h3 are possibilities. And here the grandmaster and or the cheater plays f6 in 3 seconds, which is the top engine move. So the thing is, whoever is playing with the black pieces, and I will call them a cheater because they are banned, although every now and then chess.com does say they have false positives. But, you know, again, it's a very weird case. I don't know what to make of this situation. Basically, this person would, with the black pieces in this game, would defend very well for a while and then ultimately completely punish Danya. So f6 is played, Danya captures, and then here he plays queen h5, which is the best move. He's threatening queen h7, knight f7. He's threatening to bring his rook up and over. Black plays knight to g6, which is one of the best defensive moves. Again, the best defensive move is knight d5 and then knight here. So, like, the cheater wasn't always playing the top engine moves, but enough of them. Now knight h7. So in this position, the best move is queen h7 check, followed by the simple rook d1. Just keeping the pieces involved, applying pressure. However, Naroditsky plays knight h7 and now immediately gets countered with knight to... So, you threaten the rook, which cannot move because the knight is hanging. So you move the knight instead, lose the rook. You actually lose the rook with a check, but you get into a position where black has a bishop, and a knight for 2 rooks. And it's actually surprisingly difficult to make a move here with white. In fact, you might just be worse soon because I'm going to take on g2 and pose you all sorts of problems. I'm going to bring my knight, I'm going to take, I'm going to threaten the fork. So, a very dangerous position for white. And that's why Naroditsky plays this move. They trade, and he gets here, bishop b2, bishop c3, and the material is rook, rook, pawn for bishop, bishop, knight. So white is still up 2 points of material, but worse. And around here, theories were circulating, this has to be Magnus, because only Magnus would play an endgame like this. And by the way, knight d6, very interesting idea. If you take, and then move your knight, let's say knight e2, knight c3, there is rook b6, and white is winning some pawns and going to a better endgame. So after knight to d6, the machine, likely this player who is cheating, plays king f8, which is kind of a crazy move. I mean, king f8 is really wild. I don't understand the idea. I think the idea is that rook g3 is no longer a check and is now met with knight e2. Like, there's a reason that the bot couldn't play, like, let's say, knight c7, because then rook g3 check would come with a check, and then you would play rook e1, so it plays king f8, which is, like, a super mysterious move. And, yeah, I mean, crazy stuff. King f8, knight c4, it's still not taking his rook. Bishop d5, it's still not taking his rook. I mean, it's just letting his rook sit there. It's still not taking his rook. Knight, knight, bishop, bishop, completely dominating rook, rook, knight. And I mean, again, like I said, at this point, I was seeing theories like this has to be Magnus playing with black because only Magnus has this level of control in the endgame. My friends, I'm going to fast forward through this game. Please watch what happens to Danya's pieces. At some point, the moves will run out. I'm going to start clicking. There's going to be no moves remaining. Every single piece was cleaned up. And if you open your eyes, Daniel Naroditsky, Danya had nothing remaining. Nothing. All right? Absolutely nothing. Crazy. Absolutely nuts. And this is what we're dealing with. I mean, this Terminator of a Grandmaster literally captured every single one of his pieces. It won every single piece, and then it went here, and that was it. There was other games that were. I mean, and I just want to say how unbelievably impressive it is to do this. First of all, it's not impressive if you're cheating, but let's just say, you know, it's ridiculous to do this with the black pieces. Now, doing it with the white pieces is also bad, but it's slightly less bad because white gets to move first. And I mean, he literally played the same opening every single time. So with black, it was the same opening. And, you know, when Danya had the black pieces, he was also, again, taking the center. It is the most principled approach by far. Now with white, this dude was just playing like this. He was giving up the rook in the corner. He was playing like this. He was ready to castle. He was ready to break at the center. It's kind of insane that the meta strategy of this position for black is not to play e4. Like, this move cuts the advantage quite a bit, and already, you know, black is actually already dropping their advantage nearly to 0.6, which is bewildering. But that is not the critical approach. And this guy was moving his queen to replace the rook in the corner of the board. I mean, can you believe it? Look at this. He was using the queen in the diagonal with the bishop. I mean, the strategy here of losing your pieces like this is nuts. And somehow, he was winning back material. Danya was playing too quickly. And he was trying to just, you know, bash open the position. And he was getting somewhere. And the thing is, this is why people thought this wasn't a cheater. Because you just went from minus 0.6 to minus 3 again. So it's like, is this person cheating or not? Are they cheating every other move? How are they cheating? How are they playing so fast and cheating? And if cheating is possible while playing this quickly and masking your moves as being a human, I mean, I can't even imagine what we're up against. So Danya opened up the position here for white. Knight c4. He traded, and he took on f2. Naroditsky is up 3 points of material. He's also up 25 seconds because he's a ridiculously fast player. And he is threatening moves like rook to e1 because of the pawn on f2. He's just going to trade off a few of his opponent's pieces, and he's going to go on to win the endgame, right? But now knight to e6 came. And this is a counterattack. Now, the narrow here, by the way, for the record, could take the knight, could lose the queen, and just could bring the rooks down here and cause havoc. But instead of that, he plays queen e7, and now, again, punishing him for his mistakes, knight takes g7. What? What? Yeah, well, practically speaking, this is probably the best chance, but what about king g7? Yeah, well, king g7, you gotta worry about the knight, and Danya finds queen e1 check. King to h2, and now he makes another queen. And the game is lost. The game is lost because black forces white to do this, now gives a check. Now, you cannot go back with the king because you're probably going to get mated in a variety of ways. So you have to go here, and now Danya finds bishop h3, and bishop h3 is the end of the game. It's the best move. He's absolutely lethal. This is mate. Defending it is futile because then I'm just going to take. I'm going to play knight g4. You're going to lose all your pieces. So the best move is king h3 and just going for a run. Now Danya finds the best move, rook e2. You can't move the bishop because queen h2 is mate. So you gotta go rook g1. Now Danya finds the best move again, knight e4. You can't take, because if you take, I go queen h2, you go out, and then I take the bishop with a check, and I continue hunting your king, and I'm gonna win the game. So, knight to e4, queen g3 is mate. Now, that knight that went over there to die suddenly comes back to play help defense. 29 seconds were spent on that move. Would a cheater do that? I mean, this is why it's so confusing to me. Is this a cheater that's actually a grandmaster? Because they're finding very good moves. They're keeping the game alive. I don't know what's happening. Somebody tell me what's happening. Queen f5 check. Pawn to g4. Knight to f2. King comes back to h2. Now knight takes. The king walks diagonally. Rook e8. A great move. I mean, checkmate is on the horizon. This queen is out of the game. The rook is out of the game. Now white plays king h4. The best move. What do you play here? Suddenly, there is a counterattack brewing on the black king. If the black king steps out of the way, bishop a3, and it's mate on g7. Oh my. Now, the only move here for black is to disconnect the bishop's line of sight. If you play rook e5, threatening queen takes h5, after bishop e5, bringing the rook back is the right idea. Now it doesn't matter if I move my bishop to hit your knight because you're threatening this. And if you play knight here, it's check, it's king h3, it's here, and it's this. So Danya has to put a rook on the e5 square, and he doesn't. Knight to f6 check is played. And the craziest part is, if you take, you're going to lose your queen to a discovered attack. So Danya's like, I can't do that. And unfortunately, that bishop check arrives. He is absolutely butchered here on the diagonals. Knight to h5 check is a check, and queen g7 is mate no matter where you go. That mate, that mate, that mate. Doesn't matter. You could go to any square. How does that even make sense? How did that happen? How did he lose that game? Now, the crazy thing is, Naroditsky, to his credit, did win a handful of these games, which makes the whole case even crazier. Now, yes, here is this absolutely idiotic opening. Now, I showed you a game where Danya had the black pieces, and this game was played at 5 in the morning. The game that I'm showing you was played at 6:50. So they played through the night. They played into the morning. You will notice that this game looks slightly different. In the previous game, Naroditsky played an approach where he started with a pawn on e6, right? Pawn on e6, he started with this approach. In this game, he started with a bit more of an active approach, and he played d4, and he took away his opponent's space. h3, then he rotated this way, and then he did something very clever, which is he blocked up the center with pawns like this, and he restricted his opponent's space, right? In this game, he ripped open the position very early. He was winning, but then it turned into a really crazy game, and he had to find this really accurate defensive resource. He was unable to find it. This game, he just played really fast and completely restricted his opponent. Queen d2, bishop d5, he just started trading pieces. Played knight to h4 very confidently, taking advantage of the opponent's weaknesses. And you will notice he's up a lot on time, right? Every move is being played nearly instantly. Now, again, the cheater is still maneuvering and making things very difficult and making things very annoying, right? Knight on h5, pawn to b6, keeping it solid. Cheater plays knight to d2. Excuse me, not knight to d2. Knight to e3, looking for knight f5, and knight takes on g7. Knight into f4. So as always, Naroditsky is a human, and he's going to make a mistake. Knight to f4 is not the best move. All right? So, right? Knight f4 is played. And knight takes. Pawn takes, queen f4. Instead of knight f4, it would have been better to play rook e7. And just hold. All right? Just hold. So, we have this position, rook d8. Naroditsky is down a pawn, but he has a rook and his opponent has a bishop. Knight f5. Rook d7, we're holding everything. Rook f2. Knight back to c6. Now here comes the locomotive, right? White could have played h4, g5, but white plays g5 right away. Naroditsky takes, and I mean, it just looks like he's about to perish again in a ring of fire, right? Everything is pointed at his king, but he finds queen g6, a very well-timed move, going for a queen trade. Now we're in an endgame. That apparently wasn't even the best move. The best move was rook f7, apparently losing this pawn. Because after this, take, black gets in to hit the pawn on c2. You can't move it because I take the pawn on d3, then I take the bishop in a fork. So, rook e6, incorrect move. Knight into d4. We have takes, and now we are in a rook and knight endgame. The cheater plays knight takes g6. Naroditsky goes to target the c-pawn. Now, if we get into a rook versus knight endgame, that is the way that black is going to win this. There we go. Knight goes to d5. You can't take the pawn. Can't take the pawn, you're going to lose your rook. Rook f7. And now, white just has a complete fortress. King goes to g3. Rook f1. Knight into e7, and now, oh my god, Naroditsky's gonna lose this game again. This is, okay, instead of dancing around with the knight, it was better to just keep the rook on the e-file. But okay, knight h4, rook f7, knight f5, rook d7, there's nothing. g6, you kick the rook out. Ooh, sneaky move. Very sneaky. Targeting the rook, but a bad move. Now, again, if white is cheating, how are they masking it so well? I mean, I'm bewildered. Now rook c1, and the knight has to go this way, which means the rook is gonna go this way. And Danya played great this game on the clock. He's up a full minute, and there we go. He breaks in, and now it's time to feast. He converts this game by trading and creating an outside pass pawn. He does not care about losing the pawn in the center, because after rook to b6, this pawn is being escorted by the rook. The king is too far. a4, king g7, a3, pawn makes it all the way down, and this is actually the most principled way, because you can make a queen and you can win, but it's actually even more principled to kick out the knight completely so it cannot defend. e7, you would go king f7. Actually, e7, you can even take because there's a check. So that would be very, very nice. And Danya did win a few of these games. Not only did Danya win a few of these games, Danya won in the middle of a game. This was at 9 in the morning. So if we scroll through the history of these two players, we go 2 completed games like one does on chess.com. How many games did these two play against each other? 50? I mean, where even are we? It was like 50, and the Naroditsky games begin right here. The first Naroditsky game was May 2nd, played like 70 games against each other, at 3:56 a.m. 3:56 a.m. is the first game that they played, and they ended at 9:12 in the morning by playing some moves, and Danya played a very, strong and solid setup, and then the bot walked the king to b1, and then Danya played b5, and then white resigned and was banned. So that's fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. And I have so many questions because this person was playing games forever. I mean, this person won a bunch of games. I'm just clicking on a random game they played. They did that every game. They did this, and they just played the same way against every player. They were worse for a very long time, and then very slowly they would take over the game and just win. And it's insanity. Like, I think overall this person scored like 70% with this opening. And the question remains, was this a cheater? Was this account sharing? If this was a cheater, was it a GM? Was there account compromise? I don't know. I got a million questions. You know who I am going to call? Vladimir Kramnik. On that note, get out of here.